This is part 2 on installing a Bitcoin Cash full node. These same instructions will also work for installing a eCash full node. We've got Docker containers for both of them. So in part 1 I showed how to download a presynced blockchain database that we will then mount in this part 2 with the Docker container. So the first step is to clone the docker-bchn Docker container repository. So that's on github.com under the Permissionless Software Foundation GitHub group. And if you go to the search bar, you can type in Docker dash, and all of our Docker containers are prefaced with Docker. You want BCHN, since that's the full node that we'll be running. If you want eCache, you want docker-abc. I think the setups are the same for both of them. So let's go ahead and take a look at the README for this. Installation and usage, it's assumed that you're running on an Ubuntu machine, 64-bit, that you have Docker and Docker Compose installed, which we did in the previous videos. And what we need to do is create a config directory and a blockchain data directory in the same directory as this repository. So first let's clone it. I'm logged in here to the same computer I was in the other video. I have this zip file of a presynced database that I downloaded, and I unzipped it, which created this BCHN blockchain data directory. So I'm ready to go with the downloaded file, and to unzip it, it's very simple. It's just unzip and then away you go. But I already unzipped it, so I'm not going to do that. So git clone this Docker BCHN repository, and there's a mainnet and a testnet. I'm not going to cover testnet. And so it said in that same directory you want to create a config folder and a blockchain-data folder, which is going to be this, but for now let's just make blockchain data. I want to show how to sync the full node from Genesis without using a presynced database first. Then once I've shown how to do that, I'll delete the data and override it with the presynced data that we downloaded from over IPFS on the cache strap page. Okay, so I created those two directories, and I'm going to go into that Docker BCH, go into the mainnet folder. There is this run script and the bitcoin.conf file that I need to put into the config directory. So let's take a look at those real quick. This bitcoin.conf file, this is the configuration file that controls the full node. So it's got a bunch of preset values. So testnet 0, that disables testnet. If you want to run the testnet full node, you switch that to 1. It's listening. It's got a RPC username of Bitcoin and an RPC password of password. It's running as a server with a JSON RPC interface. The zeros there open it up to an external interface, so I can talk to it, from one computer on my LAN to another computer on my LAN. The RPC port. Add the transaction index. The peer-to-peer port is going to be 8333, and the RPC port is going to be 8332, and then ZMQ is 28332 port. And you don't really need to know any of this stuff. You can just use it as it comes. I just figured it'd be worth calling out the defaults there. And then there's this run script, which also you don't need to worry about. You just want to use all these default values, and but this is a way if you need to pass additional command line instructions to the Bitcoin daemon. You can edit this file to do that. So it disables the wallet. So this is a stateless full node. There's no wallet attached to it. So if this gets hacked, it's not a big deal because there's nothing to take. There's no money. It's just simply acting as a gateway to the Bitcoin Cash network. Okay, so I'm going to copy that run script into the config file, or config directory. as well as the bitcoin.conf. I'm going to take a quick look at this Docker Compose file. So it's going to build the Docker image, and here, this is the important bit, these volumes. So it's going to go up 2 directories and then mount this blockchain data directory, and that's where the blockchain data is going to live. And then it's going to go up and mount this config directory, and that's where the config things are going to live. And if it crashes for some reason, it'll automatically restart. So now we can bring this up with Docker Compose build to build the image from the Docker file. And this will take a few minutes, so I'll just let this run. Okay, so the container's been built, and now I can bring up the container with Docker Compose up -d, and the -d daemonizes it, so it runs in the background. Okay, so if I go Docker PS, I can see all of the processes running, which there's just the one, and I can follow the logs with logs-f for follow, and then the name of the container, which is BCHN main. So this is what it looks like when you are syncing from Genesis. We didn't use the pre-sync database, so the node started up. There's a bunch of info here. Right now it's downloading the headers and trying to verify the headers, and then it will start downloading the blocks. So if you prefer to sync the full node from Genesis, you can do it this way rather than the pre-sync database. Sometimes this is faster, but hopefully you don't have a problem getting the pre-sync databases downloaded off of IPFS. That should be faster. Okay, so what we're going to do, so what I did there was I used this Docker Compose down command to bring the container down. And so I did Docker PS, and I can see there's no processes in the list there. So now what I'm going to do is go back up here, and if we go into this blockchain data, we can see these files that were automatically created by the full node. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that directory. In fact, we do sudo because Docker operates as root. Okay, and then we're going to move that BCHN blockchain data directory to blockchain data. So we just renamed that directory. And if we go in there, we see it has all the same files. But this is a snapshot of the blockchain on February 27th, 21, so about a year ago. The one on IPFS is newer. So it'll still have to sync from this point, but that'll be a lot faster. And so what we're looking for here is that it mounted correctly. So it's starting up. Okay, right here, this tells me height 676, that it's not starting from Genesis. At the progress, it's 85% of the blockchain has been downloaded, and so it's synchronizing the headers that are missing, and now it's syncing the blocks. So it's going pretty fast, and you can see the progress here to 85%. So this will allow it to sync a lot faster, and then the snapshot that is available on the cache strap is even newer, so it should sync much faster. So this is how you run a full node. And now that I confirmed that it is syncing correctly, that zip file is 142 gigabytes, and this is has a 1 terabyte hard drive, so I don't really want that zip file just hanging around. So if you had an external hard drive, this would be a good time to move the zip file. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. Free up 140 gigabytes, which I'll need for the other software. But yeah, so that's how you set up the full node as a Docker container, and it's off and running. All you need to do is sync, and again, you can always check the logs with Docker logs dash dash tail 20, I like to do that so it just starts with the last 20 lines of the logs, and then F to follow. And that's how I check on the status. So you can check on the sync progress. You'll want the node to be fully synced before you move on to the next step, which is installing the Fulcrum indexer.